Hello and welcome to the two-man power trip of wrestling. Your host, JP John Poz. With me today, very special guest, former FIP Tag Team Champion, former Ring of Honor World Tag Team Champion, Mr. Sal Rinauro. Sal, welcome in. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
What's going on in your world? What are you up to?
A little bit of everything and a lot of nothing. I'm actually in the middle of a rehab assignment.
Oh,
I fractured my zygomatic arch, which is fancy talk for I broke my cheek. Uh,
oh,
this was October, so I'm 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 out until the begin. I'll be medically cleared in about a week, but I'm just gonna kind of ride the fence and let 2024 come to an end, and then hit the ground running in January. So I'm right now I'm just taking bookings.
so how did you get injured though? What happened?
Daisy Kill lived up to his name and caught me with a hook kick right to the cheekbone. Right in here. There's a huge divot in my face, uh, which when you got a face like this, a new divot isn't going to hurt it. But I had the issue was if it was just a cosmetic thing, whatever. Those there's not enough surgery in the world to fix that. But I had this problem where I couldn't open my mouth all the way and I couldn't close it all the way. So I was just in this weird limbo, which usually I wasn't too bad until the first time I had to yawn and it had nowhere to go.
Wow.
And I had this weird internal combustion because this yawn was trying to escape and it physically couldn't. And I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. That was an event, and I never knew how much I had to yawn until I couldn't. So for all you yawners out there, don't take it for granted. It's
Wow, that's pretty scary actually. Like if you
it,
actually really think about it, that's
yeah,
damn.
yeah, it was nightmare inducing, very much so.
Damn. And Daisy Kill being a little too aggressive basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's just one of those, I tell people all the time, it ain't ballet.
Yep.
It's one of those things that happens. It wasn't an intentional thing. I don't believe it wasn't a reckless or careless thing. It was just one of those things that his foot hit the right spot in my face, and my bone cracked.
Damn, that's nuts. Are you still technically with NWA? Are you under a contract
Oh,
with NWA?
yeah, no, I'm still with NWA. Yeah, so I'm not just in ring talent. I'm actually a producer for the show.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah, I'm a producer, so I'm fortunate enough to have that in my back pocket. So I haven't lost any dates with them. I'm still I was at Sawin. Next week, is it next week? Coming up on the 13th, we have Look to Kill in Dothan, Alabama. I'll be there for that. Then we've got a show January 11th in Texas, Forney, Texas. I'm there for that. Which that January show I should be cleared for in ring, but even if not, I'll be I'll be backstage influencing and ruining the lives of others.
Nice. So, as the producer, I know everyone always says like they know the terms and stuff, but what does that actually entail? Are you actually in charge of like putting together the matches, or like how does that actually work?
Well, it actually goes from a match to match basis depending on the talent I'm working with. Like I've got a list of people that they kind of they've gone to the boss and they've gone to Billy and requested me as their agent just because we have very similar mindsets when it comes to wrestling. So and it just depends what they want. Some of them, yeah, we kind of sit down and lay it out and get all the nuts and bolts together. Other talents, or sometimes, the talents that don't request me, but I'm still giving their match. We kind of just go through an overview of, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, well, let's try this way, and let's get this camera shot. And I kind of let them have free reign. I only babysit when it's required. I'm a big believer in letting talented people do talented things. So I don't. I just in a perfect scenario, the talent kind of figures out their match and then comes to me, and we fine tune what they have versus me vomiting out everything I have for them, because as a producer, I try to impart on my talent that they know their character better than I know their character, because they are their character, right? So
Yep.
like I don't like a paint by numbers, and I don't like telling people, oh well, you should do this because your character would do this. I like the reverse, where they go, my character would do this. Okay, let's do that then.
Now, also, you're preparing the truck, right? For like, hey, this is crazy. This is going to happen. We got to be ready to be
Yes,
here,
so
stuff like that.
it's a lot more running around than I was prepared for. I think I do more cardio now than I, I did when I was just full time wrestler guy. Because what I'll do is, say I have match 1, 4, and 7, hypothetically. So I'll talk to my talent in match 1, right until they're going out. And and again, depending on the talent, like I prefer to work with the younger talent, just because they're the ones that need more molding. They're just to take a step back. So the reason I even asked about being a producer to begin with, and got into uh, the mindset that I was interested in being a producer. So years ago, about 2004, when I broke in, well, not when I broke in, I was already in, but when I started making a name for myself on the indies, my best friend was Jimmy Rave, and he was really good friends with CM Punk. And so by proxy, I kind of got to know Punk, and I would go to Punk for advice, because at that time, not that he's not now, but at that time he was on top of the indie world, right? He was kind of the guy that we were all
Oh yeah,
trying to be like.
big
So
time.
and I was fortunate enough to have that tool in my toolbox, right? If I had a question, I can go to Punk, or I would watch his matches with Joe and then ask him, well, why'd you do that there? And they just sit under the learning tree. Um, so I had that in '04, and then in '05 he signs, and even when he leaves, he would always say, hey, send me some stuff, uh, if you want, and I'll critique it. So he goes to OVW, I'm sending him my stuff, and he's sending me back feedback. '06 he gets
Wow.
called up, uh, same thing. Hey, send me some stuff. So I'd send him some stuff. He'd give me some feedback. And '07 he wins the world title. He's the guy, right? '08 he's the guy, and I'm still sending him whatever I have, and he's still, I mean, still sending me back. Oh well, what if you think about this? Have you tried this way? Just different ideas, or I like that. You keep that, or whatever it may be, right? And finally, after 4 or 5 years of him just being a tool at my every women need, I go, hey man, what do I owe you? Like, let me take you out to dinner. Let me buy you a video game. Whatever you want. Like, you've done a lot for me for no reason other than you wanted to. Let me pay you back. And he said, the only way you can pay me back is to pay it forward.
Wow.
And yeah, so like I took that to heart, right? Because like he's one of a lot of very talented guys that I've been able to pick their brain, and I mean, just like, I mean, and we could talk about it, but like Xavier Woods is one of my guys. Yeah, like I didn't teach him how to bump, but I taught him everything after. Uh, and he just called me today to talk about his segment on Raw last night, to pick my brain about it. I'm like, dude, what?
Hmm.
That's not how this dynamic should work.
Right.
Uh, but but that's the kind of stuff, like I always want to pay it forward, because that's, like I said, Punk said pay it forward, and I took that to heart. So every every time I learn something, I'm eager to share it with everybody else, you know? So like that's kind of how I got into the producer mind frame anyways, is like that. Plus I'm just a huge wrestling fan, and you know, I know what I like, and I think others like what I like too. So it's easy for me to impress that onto other people too. But yeah, so anyways, total sidetrack. But yeah, so like if I've got match one and they're, you know, I'm usually with them till about 5 minutes before they go through curtains on the most time. And it depends on who it is, you know, with the younger talent. Uh, just for example, like I've got this weird group dynamic where it's Kylie Page, Kenzie Page, Ella Envy, Max the Impaler, and myself, which is like the weirdest, you know, five people walk into a bar joke that you've ever heard. But like
Yeah.
we're just kind of this weird clique. But like with you know with Kylie and Kenzie, I think their combined age is not my age.
Yeah, they're young.
So yeah, they're real, they're babies, right? So like I try to I try to be there for them, like, you know, in ways other people weren't there for me, and remind them that like, hey, this is fun. Don't don't overthink this. Don't hyperventilate. Like, be calm, you know? So like I'll try to do stupid stuff and tell them jokes before they go out because they've already got their match. It's not, it's, you know, they're so incredibly talented that they start overthinking it, and that's where they fall off track. So we just got to bring them back on track. So, you know, if I've got one of their matches and they're first, up until 5 minutes before they're through curtains, I'm over there doing everything but talking wrestling with them because at that point we've already done it. And so from that point, once I feel confident that we're all on the same page, then I run into the truck. I'll put a headset on, and I'm right next to the director, you know, and I've got my little sheet and I've got my time cues, and I'm kind of in and out, like, hey, you know, like if there's a break, like I know what the commercial break spot is. So like, hey, you know, you know, 20 seconds until the break, you know, so I've got commentary in my head, in my ear, and I'm like, hey guys, get ready to send to a break after this, you know, we're out of break, you know, camera, you know, I'll help call the cameras. So like, you know, camera 4, I need you to pick this up because they're going in this direction, whatever the case may be, you know, hey, they're doing a dive here, you know, let's get these cameras ready. And I try to talk to cameras before too, just so we're all on the same page. But you know, once I get that all knocked out, then it's off the headset and sprint out of the truck to go find my next match or segment that's going to the ring, and rinse, wash, repeat, and do it all over again. So it's a lot of back and forth, which you know, you hear the role of director or agent or producer or whatever you want to call it. And I think the general mindset is they sit there, they talk about their match with their talent, and then they're done for the day, which would be super duper.
Right, right.
But unfortunately, I'm doing more work once the first match gets in the ring than I am throughout the day. You know, just because there's a lot of back and forth, and then like even with, you know, so if I have match 1, 4, and 7, I've still got you know, a bunch of friends that will ask me, you know, hey, do you mind watching this for me? Or hey, I'm stuck in a spot. Can you help me with something? Because just I'm fortunate enough that like all I've ever wanted and all I've ever done is wrestling, right? Like I don't know, but like with that, I know a lot of finishes, or I know a lot of, you know, hey, have you tried it this way? What do you think about this? You know, there's just a lot of useless outside of the pro wrestling world knowledge that just manifests in my head. And a lot of people, you know, they come to me and I'm more than happy to help. So even if I've only got match 1, 4, and 7, I'm still helping out match 2 and match 6 and match 9 or whatever. So it's a lot of work, but it's incredibly rewarding. Like, I thought for sure with like, you know, with me, I'm not saying I'm winding down my career because it's pro wrestling. So like, you never, you know, I'm pretty sure I'll be 6 feet under and still like, hey, I got a spot. I got an idea. But I'm just not as active in ring as I used to be because I've been fortunate enough to get these roles that I never thought that anything would top the high of being in a match, having a match and just killing it. But working with talent and watching them go out and kill it kind of under your guidance is, if it's not more rewarding, it's just as rewarding. It's a really, really cool feeling.
Now with Woods messaging, did you tell him you should have did this, you should have did that?
Well,
Change
and
it?
like at times, yes. So there's times where like I spitball ideas. Today, no, not at all. After that segment last night, like it's because I know he's at TV and I try not to bother him at TV. But like last night they had that killer segment, which we had kind of, I don't want to say we got deep into the weeds about it because, and like he even admitted to me today, like the producers didn't know where they were going. The only people that knew what that segment was last night was the writers and Triple H, and then Big E, Kofi, and Woods. Everybody else was kind of just left in the dark. But Woods and I had touched base on it. Like I said, we didn't go deep into the weeds with it because he was keeping that one close to his chest. But after it aired, after they finished the segment last night, I just texted him, "Hell yeah!" And about 6:30 this morning, I get a call from him. And he goes, "So it was good?" I was like, "Oh, are you kidding me? Like, dude, that was magic. That was beautiful." And so he was like, "Yeah, we were, and then we kind of just start rehashing it. Like, oh, I love that you did this. Like, you pulled this out. I liked this, because like the big thing I told him that I appreciated was when Big E came out and, offered to be their manager. And, it looks like we've got this reunion. I love that he was the first one to be like, "No, man, where were you? This is," and then Kofi came in because Woods has been the antagonist the whole time anyways.
Right.
Woods is, so I loved that. It would have felt very out of character. And he admitted to me that originally the thought was Kofi would be the first one to step up. And I said, "Well, I'm glad you guys diverted. I'm because Woods should have been the one to step up and go, 'No, man, because you've been the protagonist. You've caused all of these issues.'" And then for Kofi to jump in and have your back and not E's back, that's where the knife goes in the heart.
Yes. Yep.
And he was like, "Oh my God, I'm glad you picked up on that." I was like, "Oh yeah." I mean, I to me it was clear as day, but again, I'm bitter old pro wrestler, so. But yeah, there was nothing but positivity. Ironically, it was nothing but positivity in our conversation today. I was so impressed by the way all that went down.
Yeah, very good segment. Good stuff. Good swerve.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, our good friend Vince Russo would tell you.
Yes. The swerve, bro. It's all about the swerve. Yes.
Yeah.
Now, going back to NWA for a second, how is Billy to work for? Like, how is he? Because I was kind of surprised. I got the chance to interview him a while back. He is a wrestling nut, like a wrestling historian. I was kind of surprised by him a little bit.
Well, and it's funny just because like Billy in that setting, once we get to the building, Billy Corgan isn't Smashing Pumpkins rock star. Billy Corgan is the owner of the NWA and he's a wrestling guy. And that's it. It's just it. So the first time I had a conversation with Billy, like it's crazy just the way this whole NWA thing has gone down, like the first tapings of Power were a Monday and Tuesday in Atlanta. Well, months prior to that, when they announced it, I had reached out to a couple of people that I know there. I was like, "Hey, I'm available and I'm not far from Atlanta. I'd love to take part of it." I didn't hear a word. Oh, well, I tried. So the Friday before that Monday taping, I get a call. "Hey, are you available Monday?" "I am now." "Okay, great. So I get there and they pull me aside and they go, well, do you want to be X or Y? I was like, what? What does that? You know what? I'll be Y. And they're like, well, you said that a little too confident. I need to know why. And I was like, well, Y could be a vowel or a consonant. So like, it can do anything. I can do anything. I'm going to be Y. And they're like, this conversation went way too deep. Okay, you're doing a tag match. You're a wrestler Y. I was like, I got it, right? So I ended up doing 2 matches that night. And, I think Billy thanked me in passing, but we had 0, like, real interaction. It wasn't until the next set of tapings that my Caleb Conley was there, who's another one of my guys that, like, I was Caleb's, like, 7th match. I've known Caleb probably before puberty. Like, I've known him a long dang time. I don't want to put dates on stuff. I don't like to age myself. But Caleb and I were talking, and as we were talking, here comes Billy down the hallway, and he's kind of got his eyes set on us. Well, I kind of take a step back because I was going to let, the famous person talk to the famous person, and I was just going to kind of exit stage left. And Billy walks up, and he turns right to me, and he goes, hey, Sal, I'm interested in doing some character work with you. Is that okay with you? Wait, you're Billy Corgan?
Right.
You're talking me? Yeah. I think I can manage to make that work. Yes, sir. But like, there's no. He has this aura about him, like, because he's still Billy Corgan, rock star, whatever, but it's not, and there's just no carryover to what he does on stage as a rock star when we're in these production meetings or when we're in the back. I mean, he's very much a pro, like, he's just such a fan of pro wrestling, and he knows what he likes, which I appreciate. He kind of, he grew up in Chicago in the 70s, and he's kind of an AWA. He kind of likes those bigger body brawler guys, and he's unapologetically a fan of that stuff, which is awesome. But he loves. I mean, like, the NWA was the perfect pairing for Billy, because that's what Billy's just an old school wrestling fan. That's just right up his alley. But at the end of the day, like, I'll still get, every time my phone rings and it says Billy Corgan, I have to kind of like, what is happening right now? Like,
Right. Yeah.
What? Just, life doesn't make sense sometimes. Every time Billy Corgan calls me, it ceases to make sense.
Right. That's awesome. It's like, hey, what Billy Corgan is calling me?
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah, it's real, and it's funny just because, like, when I talk to people outside of wrestling, and they're, when I have to explain what I do, I'm like, oh, well, the Smashing Pumpkins. I'm like, yeah. I was like, yeah, well, Billy Corgan's my boss. Like, he knows me on a first name basis, and we have inside jokes.
Right.
Weird.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. That is crazy. With Billy and stuff, when he does pitch you stuff, are you just saying, oh yeah, because it's Billy, or are you actually saying, like, that's actually a good idea, like, let's do it?
No. So, like, I think that's honestly one of the reasons I've gotten the spot I've gotten is, if it's a good idea, I tell Billy, yeah. But if it's something I don't like, I also will tell him, I don't know, man. Like, maybe we could do it this way. And the trick that I'm probably sharing a little too much information, but it'll be fine. The trick I like to do is to translate it to Billy talk, right? So, like, if he's explaining to me the spot that he wants because he wants this guy to do this, and it just doesn't, maybe it's my brain that's not connecting. And I always try to take that perspective too, that what he wants, maybe I just don't see the vision. At the end of the day, he's still the boss, but I'll question, like, well, hey, would Bachwinkle do that? Or, like, if whatever, if Gagne's on the big cell, is he just going to get up on his feet and start rocking and rolling, or do we need to build to that? And I I try to translate it into Billy talk, and then that usually helps meet in the middle. Where I can either see his vision or he can understand why I don't like it. But no, like I'm a big believer in not being just a yes man, because I don't think that's good for anybody. I know at the end of the day, he's the one signing the checks and he's the boss, and I respect that wholeheartedly. But I think he knows anytime I counter what he's saying, it's not to do it out of spite or to prove a point. It's because I'm genuinely as interested in putting out the best product possible, just as he is.
Right, which is great. That's the kind of guy you want on your team.
Yeah,
Like
I hope so. At least I know I'm on the team through January. That's the dates I have. So
true. Now, are you going to be wrestling more though as soon as you heal up, or
yeah,
you actually like backstage more?
Yes and no. So I plan on. So I still have a couple bucket list items in ring that I want to accomplish. So I'm not stepping away from the ring anytime soon. Uh, Lord willing. No, I'm just like I said. I'm taking off the rest of the year just to make sure. Like I said, I think I get cleared next week. Uh, but at that point, we're already halfway through December with the holidays and all that stuff. It's just I figured if I don't have to take dates, then I don't have to travel. I've got kids, and I've got both my boys' birthday. My boys are my oldest. I've got two boys and a little girl, but both my boys' birthdays are December 8th and 9th.
Oh
So
wow,
not yeah, horrible planning. Just
not smart. Yeah.
no, not intelligent at all. Actually, with my second child, when I found out we were pregnant, I said, they gave us the due date, and I said, he cannot be born on the 8th because his brother's already taken that date. Second, can we just tell him his birthday's in June? Like, does he really need to know his birthday's in December? I mean, like, once we get to 16, then we can talk it over. But by then, I'm like, hey, I just bought you 6 extra months of life. Whoa, tell me a better gift, right?
True.
So,
True.
but yeah, mom wasn't having any of that. But it's just a lot easier for me just to kind of sit out this month. Like I said, I'll do the NWA thing. Just because it's close to home, I can do the backstage stuff with ease, and it's a quick turnaround time. But yeah, once January hits, once that ball drops, I plan on hitting the ground running. Like I said, there's a couple more bucket list items I really want to achieve. So until I can cross them off, world's stuck with me in spandex.
Love it. As far as wrestling is concerned, obviously, like you said, you like producing, but you are a wrestler. What
Yeah.
was the deal with AEW? I know you I guess you did one appearance for them, Wrestle Satnam Singh. Was that it? Like, how did that come about?
Well, so I actually have I'm in talks to get a few more dates with them. Whenever I've got a lot of friends that work there, I'm blessed to, there's a lot of people that work there that I grew up with in, on the indies that, are friends of mine that, we chit chat about not pro wrestling things. Um, and so whenever I get that itch, I kind of, oh, hey, I'm available for this date, and I'm available for this date, and I'm available for this date. They'll usually shoot me some. And I'm actually in the process of working on some more now. But yeah, I did, and that going into this last year, going into 2024, my goal was kind of because like I bumped in the WWE ring, I bumped in a New Japan ring, I bumped in a TNA ring, I bumped in an ROH ring, every kind of major indie, every kind of major promotion that I kind of wanted to do work for, I was able to, except for AEW. So I was like, I kind of got to get a match there just to say I did it. Uh, and it's funny because the week before or 2 weeks before, they were in South Carolina, and they hit me up on a Tuesday to be there on Wednesday, and it just wasn't possible. Said that, they asked if I wanted to come, and I was like, I can't make it. I'm sorry. Thank you for the offer. But Colt Cabana hits me up the next day, and he hits me up the Thursday, and he goes, "Where were you last night?" I said, "I told them I couldn't make it. I was unavailable." And he goes, "Well, I had you in a match with Brian Cage." And I was like, "Oh man, oh, that's heartbreaking." He goes, "Yeah, man." I go, "Well, I'm actually there next week in North Carolina, and I'll be there in Virginia the week after." And he goes, "We'll see what we can do." So we get to North Carolina, and as soon as I get there, Christopher Daniels pulls me aside. He goes, "Hey, we're probably putting you with Satnam tonight." I was like, "Oh, that'd be great. Thanks." So we kind of start putting that match together, and I think doors were at 6:30. At about 6 o'clock, they pulled me back, and they're like, "Hey, change of plans. We're gonna put Cabana in there with Satnam." I was like, "Whatever, man. That's cool." And I ended up doing a couple security spots that night. Nothing crazy, but it was something. Well, then the next week in Virginia, I get there and they pull me aside and they go, "Hey, we don't have any darts tonight. It might be there might be security, but we don't even know if that. It might just be a enjoy the catering kind of day." I was like, "Okay, that's fine, whatever." So I'm in the middle of catering, and probably an hour before doors, Jeff Jarrett pulls me aside, which Jeff Jarrett knows my name. Like that's that's another one of those like mind blowing, like,
Yep.
Dude, you're Double J. What's happening? But Jarrett pulls me aside. He goes, "Hey, is there any way you could put together a match with Satnam in about an hour?" I was like, "Yeah, absolutely." He goes, Let's go. I was like, "Oh, of course." I was prepared last week for the match, and it didn't happen. This week, I'm not prepared for the match, so of course, this is when it happens.
Yep.
Yeah, but they just haven't been anywhere near my area since then. So, but there's some stuff coming up at the beginning of the year that is close by. So I'm actively working on getting some of those dates on my calendar now, and we'll see.
Nice.
Yeah.
When I go back to the mid 2000s of wrestling, I was like, man, I wasn't really into WWE. They kind of killed it for me. It was just not interesting. So I was so into Ring of Honor. They kind of saved wrestling for me just because they were so great. TNA had
Yes.
some good stuff too, but really ROH. When you are there and your team with Tony Mamaluke, that was a huge surprise that you guys were going to win the ROH tag team titles. I was like, oh my God, like, wow, what an upset over Whitmer and Jacobs. But just ROH at that time was, I don't know, it was just something really special. I had so many good guys on the roster. It was crazy.
It was so I mean, there's two locker rooms that I've had this feeling about, and it's the NWA locker room now and the ROH locker room in 04, 05, 06, where it was a collective group of people that not only wanted to be individually better, but wanted to put out the best product possible. And guys were openly cheering for each other to succeed. Because if one guy got over, that means another guy can get over, and another guy can get over, and so on and so forth. I mean, if I could encapsulate the magic that some of those locker rooms in that ROH time had, I mean, I'd be a billionaire. I mean, it was just pure magic. And like one of the reasons I got so over with Gabe, who was booking at the time, and he told me this, is because if I wasn't putting my match together, he knew he could find me at the curtain. Because in my brain, like there was Punk, Joe, Bryan,
Danielson,
Roddy. Yeah, I mean,
Christopher Daniels,
AJ,
AJ in and out.
everybody, right?
Yeah. Yep.
I mean, we could list all the talent that was there. Aries, Jimmy Ray, Robert Strong. I mean, just on and on and on and on.
Homicide, Shelley.
Yes, yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I was getting paid to watch these shows. Like, are you kidding me?
Right.
These are DVDs I would be buying, but I don't have to because I'm on them. So like I was always at the curtain just watching. Like if how could I not? Like, I'm especially like getting to watch Bryan during that world title run was
Amazing.
insane, right? And just, and Gabe told me, he goes, "You're the most dependable guy I got because I can always count on you being at the curtain." I'm like, well, why wouldn't I be?
Right.
Like, look at what you're putting out there, Like one of my favorite memories from ROH was Final Battle '05. The main event is Low-Key versus Kenta for the Noah Junior title. And Noah called the finish. So Gabe didn't know the finish.
Wow.
So like we're sitting at the curtain and Key and Kenta are killing it. I mean, just having a banger of a match. And every false finish, the crowd's losing their mind almost as much as Gabe is. Because every time Key gets that cover, Gabe thinks he's getting a Noah Jr. title change on his show.
Yeah.
So he's full. I mean, he's so invested, So it's 1, 2. Oh, I almost had it. It was, but yeah, that whole. I mean, dude, Mama Luke and I won the tag titles the night Joe worked Kobashi. Like
Yes.
Kobashi, right? Like, what is happening? How insane! Like, I was already because like I'm a lifelong fan. Like this is I've never not wanted to wrestle. I remember I don't remember what got me hooked per se. Like I just remember wrestling being on as a kid. And it just never, I tell people all the time. So like, in the late 80s, wrestling was hot. It was big business. It was over, right? Everybody loved wrestling. Well, as the 90s, came and people started to stop tuning in and it wasn't as cool with the kids, and whatever. And all my friends kind of stopped watching wrestling except me, right? So like that's kind of why like that 92 till 96 era is my favorite era of pro wrestling because it was my little secret. Like none of my friends watched it. They made fun of me for watching it. And then the NWO gets hot and Austin gets hot. And then all these people would,
Start watching again.
"Hey Sal, did you watch Nitro last night?" And I would tell them all, "Hey, you didn't care about Tatanka's undefeated streak. You don't get to come at me with Goldberg's undefeated streak. Get out of my face."
Right.
No. I rode the Lex Express. Get out of my face.
Yes.
You guys don't get to talk to me about Stone Cold Stunning McMahon, right? I lived through Ludwig Borga. Like I watched, the Sting and Vader fight in a big mountain covered in snow. You ain't coming at the White Castle of Fear. Yeah, you're not coming at me with what you saw on Nitro. Get out of my face. But yeah, so like I'm just always like I'm just such a wrestling fan. Like I love it. So like when I found out we were winning the tag titles, and when I found out I was doing a show at the Manhattan Center, I was already like, holy crap. Like, dude, this was where the first Raw was. I've seen so many ECW shows from here. Like, this is nuts. Like, I'm walking into the same building and performing in the same building as all these people I looked up to as a kid. And then, like, you find out Kobashi's working Joe there. And it's like, what? And then, like, yeah, when they confirmed, you're like, oh yeah, you guys are up on the tag titles tonight. It was just like, it's the first time ever. And I didn't even cognitively do it. Like, thank God. I don't know what came over me. It's the first time I ever did something in pro wrestling where I just stopped and soaked it in. When Mama Luke and I were in the aisleway on the way back after the match, and I had the ROH World Tag Title in my hand, something in me just told me to stop and soak it in. And I like that memory is engraved in my brain. Like it was just such a crazy, because like even the finish on the match, because like the crowd didn't know how to respond. It was because it was so out of left field. So like when we do the 3 count, 1, 2, 3, it's almost pin drop. There's no like pop. It was almost like what just happened. And then like you hear one person start clapping, and then 2 people start clapping, and then like they slowly come to a roar. And I was like, thank God. Like I said, I don't know what came over me, but like soaking that in was such a cool experience.
And I was at Final Battle when you guys, obviously ended up losing the tag titles, but I was there at that show. That show was awesome.
Okay,
I was
cool.
at I
Yeah.
was at the Joe Kobashi tag match and Unforgettable in Philly. So I used to
Yes,
go to
yes.
so many of those shows when
Oh,
they're around
that's
the
awesome.
Northeast.
Yes, yes.
So good. There were so many, and
That
Kenta Loki was awesome.
It was nuts, right? Like it was so good. And like I said, just imagine watching the booker of the company
Yes,
not know the finish of the match. It
yes.
was like I said, that's one of my. It was just such a good memory. There's another from the Kobashi weekend, one of my all-time favorite like wrestling but not wrestling moments. So that was a long loop for so at the time, me, Jimmy, and Mamaluke, Jimmy Rave and Mamaluke were all flying in and out of Atlanta together. And Jimmy Rave was my best friend, still is, but uh and we were just it was one of those our flight was maybe at 4 a.m. We had been on the road probably 5 days straight at this point. So 4 a.m. flight means we got to be at the airport about 2. We didn't leave the building till about midnight. So we haven't slept, haven't had much to eat. Now we're at this airport. We're miserable. We're sleepy. We're at the security line. Jimmy goes through. Mama Luke goes through. I go through. And right as I go through, they're checking the bags and they go, hey, what's this? And they pull out my ROH tag team title. And I was like, oh, that's my tag title. And they go, well, you champion of something? I was like, oh yeah, I wrestle. And the security guard goes, you wrestle? You don't look big enough to wrestle. And without thinking, again, this is 5 days. We're on no sleep. We're on no food. Without thinking, I go, you're not big enough to be a security guard. And it was just all you could, me and this security guard locked eyes. And I still think somewhere in my soul, I'm stuck in that moment.
Yeah.
Locked eyes with this man. And it was probably only 30 seconds, but in real time, it felt like 3 hours. And all you could hear was Jimmy, who had already gone through security, run away. And me and this man are locked eye to eye. And I'm like, oh, man, I am about to get touched in places I am not prepared to be touched in.
Yes,
And
definitely.
finally the security guard cracked a smile and goes, all right, fair enough, man. Congratulations. And let us go. And I was just like,
Pretty quick wit, though. That's a great line.
yeah, I mean, it just, zero thought clearly put behind it.
I love it.
But
And
yeah.
you and Jimmy got to be in the embassy together. The great
Yeah, that
embassy
was
with Prince
yeah.
Nana.
See,
Yeah.
yeah, and that was Jimmy. Yeah, I don't want to say he was throwing me a lifeline, but after the thing with Mama Luke and I kind of fizzled out, Tony, because Tony was kind of burnt out. I'd say about 2 weeks after we won the tag titles, I could tell Tony was burnt out. And his heart just wasn't into wrestling. I was like, oh, come on. I need you now more than ever, man. Like, they just
Right.
put the
Yeah.
tag titles on us. I kind of need you, buddy. But he was physically there, but he was burnt. And it was obvious. So, like, once we got through everything and dropped the tag titles, then we did a few more shots. And Gabe pulled me aside and said, hey, I'm going to let Mama Luke go. but I still want to use you. We just got to figure out where to use you. I said, okay, that's fine. He goes, so you're not going to be on anything immediately going forward until we figure it out. Let's figure it out. So at the time, Jimmy was hot doing the embassy stuff. And like I said, Jimmy and I were best friends, man. I mean, we spent, 22 out of 30 days on the road together. I mean, the fact that he didn't push me over a bridge at some point is still baffling to me. But I mean, he was, because I was one of his groomsmen at his wedding, and his wife, Felicia, used to always call me his road wife. And she was like, you get him all the time. And I was like, yeah, I get him ready for the 2 days you get him. I think that's fair. But Jimmy and I were spitballing ideas on, where do I fit in on the roster? What can I do to get back full time? And Jimmy had just started doing the stuff with Jimmy Yang and Bruce Leroy. And Jimmy was like, man, dude, this guy's killing me out there. He goes, I need somebody to take these bumps for me. And I was like, well, I know a guy that can bump. And he was like, oh my God, let me pitch it. And so sure enough, Jimmy pitched to Gabe, and Gabe was like, I love it. Let's do it. And so I got, and that, out of all my ROH stuff, it was me and my best friend touring the world, teaming, doing stupid stuff to pop each other every night, fighting toilet paper showers. It was just, that was one of my favorite parts of my life, not just my career, but my life, just Jimmy and I being idiots. One of, they would do the toilet paper bit.
Yes.
When we hit the, it was just, which was, first of all, let me tell you something. Toilet paper rolls hurt when they come at you sideways. I would have never, Jimmy had told me before, he's like, man, these things hurt. I'm like, man, maybe you're just a 5-year-old little girl. Maybe we need to toughen you up a little bit.
Yep.
And then the first time I got hit with one, I was like, why didn't you tell me these hurt? This is garbage. But the game we used to play is, and we called it Matumbo, where I had to block all the shots. So, Jimmy would stand behind me, and I'd swat away all the toilet paper as it was coming towards Jimmy, because I had to protect him at all costs.
Yes,
right?
Yes. Yep.
So one night in Chicago Ridge, we're doing a 6-man, and it's, I forget who's on our team. Maybe Nigel. I think it was me, Jimmy, and Nigel against Irish Airborne and Delirious. I think that's what it was. And we're doing we're doing the toilet paper bit, and I'm swatting him away, and Jimmy's not getting touched. So Jimmy's behind me, and I see this perfect roll coming right at me. I mean, it's just, and I'm ready to Barry Bonds this bad boy and just send it right back where it came. So I kind of pivot this way, not knowing that as I pivoted this way, Jimmy had stepped around, and I smacked this toilet. I mean, it's probably the second hardest I've ever hit anything in my life, and I'll tell you the first here shortly. But I put everything I had into smacking this toilet paper roll right into Jimmy's face. Oh, bam! And because he's such a pro, he dropped. He took it, he dropped it. I was like, oh my God, I killed Jimmy. Oh no, I had one job.
Yeah.
And he's on the ground, but he looks up at me, he goes, why would you do that? I'm like, I'm so sorry. I can't keep a straight face at all, but just ridiculous, right? We're talking about grown men hating toilet paper. Just foolishness. But yeah, that was, and then getting to work with Nana, because Nana would just say whatever came to his brain at ringside. So it's not like 9 times out of 10, he didn't know what he was going to say. So it's not like we could ever be prepared for what foolishness is about to come out of his mouth. So like there's a couple inside jokes between Jimmy and I, just the stupid stuff that Nana would say at ringside. We're like, we'd have to pause and do one of these guys,
Yep.
just because it's so absurd. But I mean, and we had Daisy Hayes with us too, who was like we kind of used Daisy as our Kill Bill. She was our little assassin. It was a real fun dynamic that I wish we had more time together because we had some really good stuff lined up that it didn't get to work out.
What was the first hardest thing you ever hit?
So when was it last year? I guess it was last year. I did a Raw match with Omos, right?
Right.
And Pierce was the agent on it, and I've known Pierce, all those ROH days and stuff. I've known Pierce forever. And so it's blah, 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 blah. And we get to a spot where I have to forearm Omos in the back. And Pierce is like, hey, man, I need you to lay it in. There's guys that are afraid to hit him, but he's a legit giant. It'll be okay. I'm like, okay, man, I got you. And he's like, no, I need you to lay this in. Make it look good for TV. He'll be fine. I'm like, okay, I got you. And then MVP, who's a guy that I've known forever, I was just telling a friend about it a couple days ago. Like, if you go back and watch Impacts from like 03, 04, there was like 2 occasions where me and Antonio Banks, who grew up to be MVP, were a team.
Yep.
Like I've known dude for a long time, and he's managing Omos. And he pulls me aside. He's like, hey, man, I need you to lay your stuff in on Omos. People are afraid to hit this guy. He's a giant. He'll be okay. And I'm like, I got it, man. He goes, no, seriously, like, hit him. Hit him safely, but hit him. I'm like, okay, I got you. And then Omos is like, hey, when you're back there, I can't see you, so I need to feel you.
Right. Yep.
Lay it in. And I'm like, so now I'm like, God dang, man, like, what is everybody doing? Like, why isn't anybody hitting this guy? So I've got in my mind, like, I mean, you wanted it. I'm gonna bring it. I'll bring the pain. So we get to the spot, and I rear back as hard as it's a flat surface, but he's a giant man. Like, I'm not worried about killing him, but I give him every ounce of power, everything within my soul. Like, I'm calling upon my ancestors to help me hit this giant. And I hit him as hard as I ever hit anything ever in my life. And this big scary man goes, harder. That's the most defeated I've ever felt in my life. Dude, I gave you everything I have. What do you mean harder? I could have hit you with a baseball bat and it wouldn't have hit. Like, what do you mean harder? And that's kind of the point where I realized he's going to win this match whenever he wants to win this match. Hopefully he goes by what we talked about, but if he doesn't, I'm not winning this fight.
Definitely not. Yeah, he's a freaking monster.
Yeah, he's every bit of 7 whatever. But yeah, like I've never hit anything as hard as I hit that man's back, and for him to just go harder, I'm like, that's the most defeated feeling I'll ever feel in my life, I think.
Hey, he's a monster though. He's a scary dude.
Yes, absolutely. Very nice guy though. Very nice. I try guys that size. I try to keep on my good side. So.
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah. So as we hit the wind down here, we head towards the finish. What is next? What is going on next for Sal Rinauro?
Well, like I said, I still got a couple bucket list items that I want to fulfill. Number one, without doubt, this is the number one. I want to get it done. I want to be the NWA World Junior Champion. As we talk, like as I've said, 32 times now probably. Jimmy Rave was my best friend, and we lost him almost 3 years ago now. And I was with him the first night he won the title, and I traveled with him. I I was his opponent of choice for a lot of his defenses. And so winning the World Junior title just so I could do one more thing with my best friend uh, is the number one thing on my to-do list. Like I just I'm still close with his wife, and like I still hang out with his son, and his son and my son are very similar, and they're 6 months apart, I think. So like they're friends, and just to bring them that title, it would mean the world to me. So that's kind of what my number one. I really want to get done. That's my focus. Is even if it's for a day, just to have my name on the list. Like I said, I'm a wrestling nerd, anyways. Like I can chronologically list every WWE champion because
Yeah.
useless knowledge in my head, right? Like,
Right. Yep.
how do you do taxes? I don't know, but I can tell you that it went Buddy Rogers, Bruno Sammartino. Like what am I doing with my life? But to have
Ivan
my
Koloff.
name on,
Ivan
yeah,
Koloff.
yes,
Yeah.
Koloff, Morales, Stan the Man
Yeah.
Stasiak, back to Sammartino, Superstar Billy Graham, Bob Backlund, Iron Sheik, Hogan, the Andre thing. Yeah. Anyways, but to have my name on the list of the World Junior title champions, it means it would mean the world to me. So that's kind of my number one. Like, got to do it, want to do it. I'm putting a lot of eggs in that basket. So that's kind of what I'm gearing up for. So hopefully that's what's in the near future for Sal Rinauro.
So where could everybody find you as far as social media and your names, if you will, your
Yeah,
Instagrams,
so you can find me on Twitter at Sal Rinauro, Rinauro, all the vowels. Pat Sajak loves me. You can find me on Instagram at Sal_Rinauro because I messed up making at Sal Rinauro. And I'm on Facebook at Sal Rinauro. You could catch me and not necessarily just me, but a lot of my coworkers every Tuesday at 6:05 on X, the NWA Power streams. New episodes every Tuesday, 6:05 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. And then I try to keep my schedule updated on all my socials. You can also, most importantly, find me at prowrestlingtees.com/Sal Rinauro. There's a plethora of shirts. Buy them all.
You're everywhere. I love it.
I try.
But Sal, thank you so much for all the time tonight. Really appreciate it. Great stuff.
Oh no, it's my honor. I'm glad to be a part of this.